6:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Real quickly, Joan, I don't know if you had this in your news. You probably did, maybe not. Apparently, we all know that Donald Trump has been telling Vladimir Putin, look, you got 50 days.
Oh, yeah.
You got 50 days to figure out how to get along with Ukraine and come to a peace deal. Apparently, Vladimir Putin's response to that was launching hundreds of drones on key regions of Ukraine, including the hometown of one Vladimir Zelensky.
Oh, boy.
So that was Russia's response. And so that's going to be a thing that's going to keep breaking, for the next 50 days. We're going to see where it goes. The other thing, you had a story, and I thought it was interesting. You had a story about air traffic controllers.
Yes.
And about how low on air traffic controllers are we? They want to hire how many here in Nashville?
17.
So I'm just trying to figure out, why is it we have such a hard time finding air traffic controllers? Because they have them in the military. And we know that we found a whole bunch way back when Reagan fired all those air traffic controllers many years ago. Now, I do know that for a lot of air traffic controllers, I actually know someone who used to be an air traffic controller in the military.
Yeah.
He got out of the military and he's like, I don't want to do it. And I'm trying to figure out, because I know the guy.
It's such a stressful job.
It is so stressful.
Yeah.
This dude cannot find a good job to save his life.
And he's still not willing to.
He and I were joking. He would rather work at Walmart. No offense to people who work at Walmart. Yeah. He said, I would rather work at Walmart and make whatever people at Walmart make, as opposed to be an air traffic controller and make $80,000 to $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Because of the stress. So, is there, I don't even know this, and I probably should have looked it up. Is there like an air traffic controller like school?
Oh,
yes. Is this like a trade that you can learn?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. This is, in fact, it's a well-paying career.
Oh, I know it is.
But you really have to be on top of your game.
Well,
now,
yeah.
There is legislation. So, these guys have to retire, these guys and girls have to retire by the age of 56. And Marsha Blackburn's legislation that she's introducing would have them staying on to 61.
I know why they want
qualified to work beyond the mandatory retirement age of 61. So in some places it says 56, some say 61. Anyway, these guys have to retire early because of the stress on them.
Yeah, but I would say that the longer somebody does a job, the more accustomed they are to the stress and the better they get.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yeah, I don't. It's fascinating to me why we can't get more people to be air traffic controllers. I would love to do that job. Sadly,
You're an old
57.
Guy. Right.
I'm not allowed to.
You're already aged out. There's new incentives. The FAA is offering new incentives. But they're also, they don't hire anyone who's older than 31.
Okay.
So it kind of squashes the limits, on
I mean, it is an important job.
Super important.
Air traffic controlling, that is an important and a very stressful job. So hopefully they're able to find the people that that they need. But I got to tell you, they do have a lot of people in the military that if they needed to, they could try to tap some of those folks that are leaving the military and see if they want to come work in the private sector. By the way, real quick, the White House has come out with a really handy thing. It is an interactive map. Now, the big, beautiful bill, of course, has been passed. And so now they have come out with an interactive map as far as the savings by state for the big, beautiful bill. Because we all know the no tax on tips, all the things. Real wage increase for these, and I'm going to go ahead and post this to my ex. Here in the state of Tennessee, real wage increase is going to be $3,400 to $6,100. Now, this is obviously very broad, but you know what? Your wages are going to go up here in the state of Tennessee, according to the White House, $3,400 to $6,100. Real take-home pay increase, $7,000 to $9,900. That is, of course, because of all of the tax breaks and so forth. No tax on tips, share labor force benefit, 4%. Seniors benefiting from no tax on Social Security, 1.2 million, and on it goes. Jobs protected, 139,000, and opportunity zones. You know what the opportunity zones are, Joan?
Oh, yeah.
Like if you have maybe it's going to be an area that just needs a lot of improvement. They need opportunity. Mm-hmm. You open up manufacturing plants, whatever it is, you try to develop this certain area. Opportunity zones and the jobs created there, 24,000. Opportunity zone housing units created, 6,000. So in other words, there's a lot going on with this big, beautiful bill. You know, the media and all the folks there on the left, and I agree that this is costing a lot of money. I am very uncomfortable with how the debt and the deficit, many people say it is going to rise. The Trump administration says, well, with all of the job creation and the churning of the economy.
And all the money that's being brought in by tariffs.
By the tariffs, all of that. I mean, our economy is going to be just fine. I tend to believe, and I'm no economist, but I tend to believe and I tend to trust people like E.J. Antoni and Scott Bessent. I interviewed E.J. Antoni, I think it was on Monday, where he talked about all of this. You can find the podcast at 997WTN.com. So the left keeps harping on, it's, Medicaid and people are going to be dropped off their Medicaid. They're really not, unless they're not supposed to be on Medicaid. That is the whole point. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and post that to my X. Follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. 615-737-9986 is the super text line. That is open as well. 615-737-WWTN. And I got a lot of people. A lot of people are chiming in about the lack of air traffic controllers. So maybe we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Kay says, my son graduated in May with a degree in aviation. He began applying to be an air traffic controller in November. He is now waiting for orders to go to the FAA school in Oklahoma. She says it is a very long process and a very rigorous process just to do the initial training. After the training, he will have a 2-year internship. So I wonder if there's a way to speed it up, because we need to speed that up.
Well,
I mean, if we're 17
do you want
down,
to speed it up?
Well, if there is just a lot of waiting, this is my point. If there's a lot of waiting, well then how can we speed up the process so that people are not waiting for months on end before they can go to the school in Oklahoma? I don't want the training to be sped up. I want, if there's a lot of waiting involved, they can get that process done quicker and maybe open up more schools. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, being 17 short in Nashville, that is not an ideal situation. So we do need more air traffic controllers. And part of the issue with the air traffic controllers, too, is that they work long hours. There's some overtime involved, too. So they need to figure out a way to recruit them, train them quicker, and make the process quicker, and then be able to keep them as well and be able to convince those folks coming out of the military to go into air traffic controlling. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. I don't think this is pot it down. That's Jay Harper from the afternoon. Joan, what's happened? Apparently, the rando traffic reporter from Pennsylvania has not recorded her traffic report.
Apparently not. So I'll tell you this: 24 westbound heading into Nashville this morning. Delays are starting back at Smyrna now, so it's pretty heavy, and it's not clear if there's something happening there. Right after the merge between 24 and 65 as you're heading in from the north, that slows down this morning as well. And by the way, you still have some construction spots, the long-term construction at the airport this morning, that continues. Also this morning, it's closed on Old Mount Juliet Road South and East Division Street for road work. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you. 6:17, Nashville's Morning News. By the way, my buddy Aaron says Air Traffic Control School has been utterly corrupted by DEI. Quite the rabbit hole, she says. Qualified whites have awful. That's actually true. I've covered that. Qualified whites have awful stories. They do.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think, didn't Trump say that he wanted to eliminate all of the rampant DEI that's going on within, the air traffic controller school? It's almost like everything bad in our nation these days can be traced back to, DEI, equity, illegal immigration, the DEI and all that kind of crap going on in our schools today as well. I mean, it goes on and on. By the way, as far as your weather today, high of 95, possible showers as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, I want to get started on some of this audio from Gavin Newsom and Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan, of course, a Franklin treasure. He is, he's a veteran. Sean Ryan is a veteran. He's really smart, and he's really in tune on a lot of things. He's got a podcast, and he did have Gavin Newsom in for his podcast, and there was a lot of conversation about the state of the world today. Here is Gavin Newsom and Sean Ryan, a couple of quick audio bites.
So I'm wondering did you come here to hang out with the 92,000 Californians? Then
you're hitting me right there, man. The California exit. By the way, complete bullshit. Now, the last 2 years, we've seen significant growth in California's population. Right. So it's reversed and record-breaking tourism. Now the fourth largest economy in the world. We dominate in every major industry.
Right, so kind of sort of true, but not really. So number one, if you have watched this thing at all, you know that Gavin Newsom, dude's got a potty mouth. I mean, he absolutely has a potty mouth. He used, and listen, I'm not pearl clutching at all, but you would think that a guy who is going to run for president would not use the Lord's name in vain over and over and over again. But that is exactly what he did. And Joan was telling me that Sean Ryan is a very Christian man, a man with a lot of faith. So for Newsom to sit here and use the Lord's name in vain over and over again, I think is disrespectful not only to Sean Ryan, but disrespectful to Christians by and large. But anyway, so when Newsom says that the population has grown there in California, I mean, say it with me, friends. It's all of the illegal aliens and the influx of Joe Biden immigrants. So people like Sean Ryan, Elon Musk, and Joe Rogan and Dan Mandis left California, and California got an influx of people who couldn't speak the language, had very few skills, flown in by Joe Biden or just snuck across the border. As a matter of fact, the reality is that California may lose 3 to 4 congressional seats if these trends continue. And so one of the things, and I said this in the 5 o'clock hour early, but I'm gonna prove this time and again. You're gonna have to get used to deciphering what Gavin Newsom says, because what he likes to do, and that is a perfect example. What he likes to do is he likes to throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall. That's what he likes to do. Throw a bunch of stuff up against the wall. All of these supposed facts, and I'm air quoting the word facts. All of these supposed facts, and the reality is that a lot of the things that Gavin Newsom says, they are either out and out lies, they are not really true, they're like half-truths, and they're missing context, or they're cherry-picked things that ignore a far broader picture. That's what Gavin Newsom does. He did that in the interview, the debate that he had with Ron DeSantis, the one that Sean Hannity was moderating. And he did this in Sean Ryan's podcast. So we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN 621. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. That is where 8602 says, don't worry, Christians don't listen to Gavin Newsom. So that is what that person says. A lot of hate coming in for Gavin Newsom. The other thing I thought was interesting is he started complaining about how Donald Trump calls him Gavin Newsom.
And it affects his children.
Children. Okay, so you saw that part?
I did.
Let me play this just very, very quickly. Yeah. This is Gavin Newsom.
Just toughness. It's a weakness masquerading as strength. That's what I don't like about this son of a bitch. I don't. And forgive me, I know he's the president of the United States. Forgive me, I didn't, yeah, he calls me new scum. Come on. How do I explain that to my kid? Now I have my kids' friends calling my kids new scum. That I get, because I was called that in 7th grade, but not by a 79-year-old. Model better goddamn behavior, man. Forgive the goddamn.
You know what I like? I like how he is telling Donald Trump to model better behavior.
Yeah.
As he curses his way through like a 15-second soundbite.
Is he worried about his kid hearing him curse like a drunken sailor?
Great point, Joan Jones. That is a great point. And by the way, I know that a lot of you are screaming at the radio, telling me to say it. New scum is nothing compared to what the Democrats have called Donald Trump, which is Hitler and, Nazis and all that other kind of stuff. So got a lot more straight ahead from Gavin Newsom on Super Talk 99.7, 623. Joan, what's coming up in the news?
Metro Council votes to expand its business districts last night. Also, a man who attacked ICE agents in Texas is now under arrest. We've got those stories coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
6:38, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello. All right, so talking about Gavin Newsom, just real quick, because I spent the morning trying to sort of fact check this interview that he did with Sean Ryan. By the way, coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, the Tennessean does a bit of a deep dive into why it is that CNBC is saying that Tennessee is, worst place to live, or one of the worst places to live in the country. And so we're going to talk about that coming up in the news at 7 here on Super Talk. I'm just going to tell you right now, I got one word for you: Memphis. It's always Memphis. We'll talk about that coming up. Gavin Newsom and Sean Ryan. So they did this podcast. And the reason why I believe that it is important to try to decipher what Gavin Newsom had to say is because dude is clearly running for president. And so one of the things that he said, I'm going to replay this one soundbite because, again, remember what I said. He throws a lot of stuff out there. He expects you to believe all of the things that he says when the reality is that he's throwing out a lot of BS. Again, this is Gavin Newsom.
So I'm wondering did you come here to hang out with the 92,000 Californians? You're
hitting me right there, man. The California exit. By the way, complete bullshit. Now, the last 2 years, we've seen significant growth in California's population. So it's reversed and record-breaking tourism. Now the 4th largest economy in the world. We dominate in every major industry.
All right. So again, not to belabor the point, but a lot of that people coming in, they're illegals or they're Joe Biden's migrants, whatever you want to call them. They've lost Sean Ryan, Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Dan Mandis, and thousands of other people who are well-educated and contributing to the economy. And they have a bunch of folks that have come in and are just living off the system there in California. By the way, you heard him talk about manufacturing and about how things are going great in the state of California. They've actually lost a ton of manufacturing jobs as companies, as you know, have moved to other states. Now, the sheer size of California, it does make sense that it is number one in the nation, but due to high taxes, regulations, the high cost of living, and people simply not wanting to live in the state anymore, California has lost a ton of jobs, a ton of manufacturing jobs, thousands of jobs. They've gone off to places like, Texas and Tennessee and other places. The unemployment rate in California, by the way, is far higher than the national average. You didn't hear Gavin Newsom saying that, did you? Right now, the unemployment rate in California is 5.4%. You know what it is nationally? 4.1%. So please tell us again, Gavin Newsom, how great the job market is there in California. I'm sure that they're doing great on tourism. You know why California is doing great on tourism? Because people like to come in and then leave as quickly as possible.
And so we're really proud of California. And
did you see, by the way, that California's mandated $20 an hour minimum wage? caused 18,000 job losses, according to the National Bureau of Research. That just came out yesterday. So,
and so we're really proud of California. And
you can be proud of California all you want. Do you know what part of this is, too? I was listening to all of this, and I started thinking, this is like the Joe Biden auto pen scandal or the Joe Biden cognitive decline scandal. And here's what I mean by that. Don't believe your eyes. Believe what we say about California. For example, we have all seen what is going on in San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego related to homelessness and the homeless population taking over the streets. We could also talk about, the violence and so forth. And so there's a lot here. And Gavin Newsom is just out there, talking a bunch of BS. Then they started talking about guns and the murder rates in California. Newsom, of course, makes the claim that California has a dropping gun murder rate.
And there's a correlation there. California is one of the lowest gun death rates in America. The highest murder rates in the country tend to be red states, significantly so. You look at the murder rate, 8 of the top 10 murder rates per capita in the country are all red states.
Well, I thought Chicago was the number one.
No, it was cities. You'll have different experiences.
All right, so Sean Ryan, and it may have been by accident, I'm not sure, but he says, wait a minute, I thought it was Chicago. This is a familiar thing that Gavin Newsom and the Democrats say. Oh, it's all the red states. That's where all the gun murders are happening. Well, perhaps, but all those murders are actually happening in cities that are run by Democrats. I mean, again, not to pick on Memphis, but I will. Think about Memphis. But here's a few other things. California has actually seen a rise in violent crime, period, since Gavin Newsom took office. The data from the FBI does show, by the way, a drop in recent years. But that's all BS, and you know why. Part of what has impacted that drop has been the underreporting of crimes in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco during the Biden administration after they changed the reporting procedure. Remember all that? Biden changed the reporting procedure, and it was such a pain in the arse that some of these cities were like, screw it, we're not gonna report. And that's why it looks like California's violent crime is dropping. But violent crime overall has absolutely increased significantly since his term began. Retail thefts have skyrocketed because they reduced the penalties for some of those crimes. And by the way, as far as this whole conversation,
murder rates per capita in the country are all red states.
Right. And again, they're driven by the murder rate in Democrat-run cities. By the way, number one, these days, apparently, District of Columbia. But again, all of this is fueled by cities run by Democrats. For example, Tennessee is in the top 10, and that is fueled basically by Memphis. It's always Memphis. So Newsom, it's so funny. I didn't even mean to do that. So Newsom has this tendency to throw all of these, and I'm air quoting, facts at you, but they definitely need more actual context. Oh, then the topic turns to COVID. Wait till you hear this. It's all straight ahead on Super Talk 645. Time to check the roads.
Lebanon, 40 westbound before 109. An accident blocks the left lane. East Nashville, Ellington Parkway northbound. A crash at Broadmoor Drive in the left lane. No problems coming in on 24 or 65. No unusual delays on 440. I'm Christy O'Brien.
As far as your weather today, it is going to be hot, and I mean really hot. A high of 95. Possible showers as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. Playing some select cuts from the interview that Sean Ryan, Franklin's own, by the way. I'm a big fan of his. Sean Ryan and Gavin Newsom. It's clear that Gavin Newsom is running for president. The topic turned to COVID. And Joe Rogan sends in a question, asking the question, who will take responsibility for children being forced to take the COVID vaccine that were unnecessary, and who will take responsibility for the myocarditis and the cancers among those kids and adults too, by the way. So Newsom has this big, long, drawn-out answer, and Rogan it was a very fair question. The kids were forced to take these COVID vaccines. They were, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, unnecessary. Who will take responsibility for the diseases, the conditions caused by those unnecessary vaccines? And so again, Newsom had this big, long, drawn-out answer that I've tried to unwind here. First of all, he spent a lot of time, and he's very proud, Gavin Newsom is, of this report that is going to be coming out next month of all the things that they did right and wrong in the state of California regarding COVID. So that will be interesting to read. I'm very curious as to who is writing the report, because if there are a bunch of supporters and advocates of Governor Newsom, well, then you know that it is going to be very positive for the governor. But this is what he said.
I mean, Florida shut down their bars and restaurants before California. The question was, when did we start to unwind some of those restrictions? California was more restrictive, and we were certainly aggressive at scale.
All right. So, again, remember, there's a lot to unwind here, because he's basically telling you half-truths, full falsehoods, and blatant lies. On March 15th, Gavin Newsom called for the closure of bars and restaurants in California. On March 17th, that is when Ron DeSantis did. So that's number one. Number two, it just seems really silly. I feel like we're arguing, and this is, again, another thing that Gavin Newsom does, is he does a lot of just minutia arguing, because it feels like we're arguing over, a couple of days. Because the fact is that Florida opened up a lot sooner than California, allowed those restrictions to expire a lot sooner than California did, of course, and allowed people to live again. And that is a simple fact. California was way more restrictive for a lot longer. And so I feel like this is sort of like a how to say this in a non-vulgar way. I feel like Gavin Newsom is engaged in a one-person peeing match. You know what I'm saying? Like, he keeps going after Florida and Ron DeSantis because DeSantis utterly humiliated Gavin Newsom in that debate with Sean Hannity. So he does. He keeps going after Florida because of, in my opinion, the whole Ron DeSantis thing.
Florida had worse educational outcomes during COVID than California.
Nope.
Kids did worse on reading and math scores. Fact. 3 out of the 4 areas, 4th grade reading and 8th grade reading and math, 3 out of the 4 categories California outperformed. From a health perspective, they had more per capita deaths than California. And from a wealth perspective, their GDP contracted more than the state of California.
So I'm just going to go down the line. Very simple. Education results. He is wrong. Florida reopened earlier, which meant that they have and will have fewer kids with emotional issues. That's number one, and that is a fact. Number two, as far as pure test scores go, you have a lot of different metrics. You have a lot of different testing, who does the testing and so forth. But the bottom line is there was a Harvard study that shows that Florida absolutely smoked California. Newsom, again, has this tendency to sort of fragment his talking points and not give the entire context. To me, the big takeaway is Florida opened sooner, and that led to the kids there in Florida getting back to a sense of normalcy sooner than kids in California. But we can just look at one metric to prove him a liar.
Florida had worse educational outcomes during COVID than California. Kids did worse on reading and math scores. Fact.
No, it's not a fact. 4th grade math during COVID. California dropped, and this is, again, 4th grade math during COVID. California dropped 5 points. Florida remained flat and outperformed the national average. 4th grade reading. Both states saw a 3-point decline, but Florida's scores were overall higher than the national average. School closures. Florida, again, opened up far, far earlier than California. Remote learning was an epic disaster, and that did a lot of damage to kids. And in the state of California, of course, they acquiesced to the teachers' union and so forth. And so in California, Gavin Newsom and the Democrats and the school unions sold out the kids in favor of the unions.
And from a wealth perspective, their GDP contracted more than the state of California.
Not true. 2020, GDP decline for California was 2.8%. Florida's, that contraction, was only 1.5%. And so, again, I honestly feel like we're arguing semantics and numbers that can be manipulated 10 different ways, and that is exactly what Gavin Newsom does. Which state saw more COVID deaths? In this instance, he is right. Because, you know what? Per capita, Florida has had a lot of older people at the time. So we did see a lot of the older people die there in Florida. But which state saw more COVID deaths total? Well, that's California because they've got a lot more people in that state. So listen, I could do this all day with Gavin Newsom, try and fact check his boasting based on fragments or lacking of context, half-truths, full lies, you name it. And Gavin Newsom, he is so proud of what they have accomplished in California, which absolutely makes no sense in the world because here in America, what do we all look at when we see California? We see the homelessness in Los Angeles, the violence in Los Angeles, the homelessness in San Francisco. I could go on and on and on. By the way, Adam Carolla has spoken about just this kind of behavior from Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom's a sociopath. I don't think people really fully understand who that guy is and who that guy isn't. I don't know that he knows who he is or what he stands for or what he thinks. He thinks anything anyone wants him to think. He's a roofer, and he goes and looks at a house and it has a 10-foot by 10-foot hole in the middle of the roof. And somebody says, why is all the water pouring in? And he says, it's a multitude of issues and it's nuanced. And you go, there's a 10-foot hole in the roof. And he goes, this is about gutters. It's about fascia. And then you go, there's a 10-foot hole in the roof. And he goes, my grandparents came here with no roof. Or there's a 10-foot hole in the roof. All the water's pouring through it. And he has to talk about everything except for the 10-foot hole in the roof.
I mean, and listen, he is absolutely right. And so here's the deal. We're all going to have to get used to the way that Gavin Newsom debates and throws all of these half-truths out there because he clearly, at least in my opinion, is running for president. 6:55, Joan Jones has the news at 7. Joan.
Wow, you went so fast, Dan.
You know what? That was a long-winded segment, and I felt like I had to really just hurry up the final 5 seconds. I'm sure it made all the difference in the world.
Sure. Yeah. A heat advisory for today and tomorrow. We've got your forecast coming up, tell you what to expect. Also, the TVA has backed off its plans for a natural gas plant in Cheatham County. That story and more coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.